ask the papacy, who gave you the power to change God's law? They're saying, because we have on earth the vicar of the Son of God. He represents the Son of God. Therefore, He can do what Jesus does. So you see, the name and number is related to His claim to having power to change God's holy law. Beware of receiving His number. And then we notice at the end of the third angel's message that whoever drinks the wine of Babylon, whoever worships the beast and his image and receives his mark and the number of his name will suffer the outpouring of the unmitigated, unmixed wrath of God upon those who did not receive the gospel and who did not receive the three angels' message. And we noticed in the third angel's message that there's a reference to being tormented with fire and brimstone before the angels and before the Lamb. And not having rest day or night. Those who worship the beast and his image and received his mark and the number of his name. And we did a full study of what this is really saying. You see, most churches teach that those who are in apostasy against God in the end time are going to burn in the fires of hell forever and ever and ever and ever, and they're never going to go out. But we studied this very carefully, and we noticed that even though the torment is going to be long, the suffering is going to be long, eventually the suffering will come to an end. In other words, hellfire is not a place where God tortures people throughout the ceaseless ages of eternity. People will be punished in the lake of fire according to their works, according to Scripture. And then, of course, we have the conclusion of the third angel's message. Do you know the conclusion of the third angel's message brings to view the remnant of Jesus Christ? Notice the characteristics of the remnant. Revelation 14 verse 12 speaks about those who have what? The patience of the saints. Why are we going to need patience? Folks, we studied a whole lecture on the patience of the saints. God's people are going to go through the tribulation. It's going to be the worst period in human history. Even though most fertile imagination cannot imagine what the tribulation is going to be like. It's going to be like the time when the three young men were thrown into the fiery furnace. Well, let me make it clear. God's people will not suffer the wrath of God. They will live on the earth when God is pouring out His wrath, but they will be shielded by divine power, just like the three young men were shielded by divine power. But they will have to be on earth, and their faith will be severely tested, but they will stand. They will have the perseverance, which is a better translation. They will have the perseverance of the saints. They will hang on, and they will not give up. God's remnant will have the patience of the saints. But then the last part of the third angel's message also says that they keep the commandments of God. And we studied a whole lecture on the commandments of God. And we noticed that the expression, keeping the commandments of God, refers to the Ten Commandments. In other words, God's people are going to keep the Ten Commandments. So much for the people who say that the Ten Commandments were nailed to the cross. Or that Jesus was the one who kept the commandments, so we don't have to keep them. Or that we don't have to keep the commandments because we're not under law, but we're under grace. That we don't have to keep the commandments, that's just the letter, but we live by the Spirit. You're making a liar out of God. Because God says that He will have a remnant that have the patience of the saints and keep the commandments of God.